Okay, good night. My name is Christian. In this moment, I'm going to talk you about the multimodal literacies, learning through visuals. I will explain to you like the concept by itself, and also I will explain to you how it affects the students. Okay, this is the first part of the article that we are going to develop. Okay, so in order to start with my presentation, I'd like to tell you that right below the video, you're going to find a presentation that will explain the activity that I'm going to do now, and also you're going to check a little article that you can read in order to reinforce the information that I'm going to give to you all. Okay, so in order to start, let me just something here. I like to start with some reflections. Okay, those reflections were done by some important people in the file of the education. So the first one is this. That's the thing about pictures. They seduce you. It was written by David Bryan. He's a musician and an artist. When we analyze this, like this phrase, we're able to notice that in the last century, many people were inspired about the images because we have learned that we are able to read the world in many different ways. And also, something important I like to mention is this: education is the most powerful weapon we wish you can use to change the world. It was done by Nelson Mandela. You know that is an important person in South Africa, well, Africa continent. So it's a very good phrase that we're going to develop in order to continue with our work. Okay, so now we're going to start with the aims. So what are the aims that we're going to work on this chapter in regards to multimodality? So the first one is how do visuals, materials, activities, and tools support language learning. It means that we're going to analyze how this new kind of reading is going to reinforce the language learning in our students. The second aim is that we are going to use the technology, and then we're going to analyze how technology is going to give us news opportunities for producing new text in regards to multimodality, and also it is going to help us to know how we're going to learn through the new concept of literacy. And the third one is how the new techniques are going to work in our context. So we already have the multimodality text and how are they going to develop in our classroom, for example. So now I'm going to start with this introduction. So this article is planned to develop some activities when we talk about the issues and opportunities for learning that are being created, and we have to take into account the culture. Even though the text is talking about the activities and the procedures and also the tasks that we're able to do in a curriculum or in a classroom, we have to understand what we need to take this point when we're talking about the culture. In this case, well, we can say about the Colombian culture, for example. And then we're going to learn the different roles that visuals play and how we can cover the information given in class and the relationship that we have with them. I mean, with this new modality. So this most important point in this activity, I will say, that is cover all the information and how we're going to create and how are we going to analyze as teachers these activities in order to show to our students. Okay, and we're going to explain how teachers play the role in helping students and finally ways in which visuals can be used for supporting the language learning. It means that we already have information, so how are we going to help our students in order to learn? In order to continue with my presentation, I'd like to mention two important people that are really important when we're talking about this file, okay? So the first we have Professor Joseph Kennedy. He's a professor that actually he works in London, and he's a professor. He graduated from the Cornell University in 1993, and he has spent more than 5 years in order to make his doctoral research in the University of Cambridge. So this is an important point that we could analyze. And also we have another professor. His name is Dr. John Callow. He's an important author and also teacher that explains us more about the multimodality and how it works in the Colombian context. Okay, so now in order to continue, I'm going to explain to y'all something real important in terms of the role of the visuals in language learning. So when we're teachers, we are also focusing, and we are all the time thinking about the information that contains the multimodality text. We can combine images and also some words. But in order to study this concept in a better way, we could say that the texts are delivered to the receiver and created something that is called information overload. What does it mean? Uh, it means that we have like a superficial thinking. So we already analyze all the information that we have, and then we have to figure it out how we're going to form it in a study, for example. So in the text it said that per day there are some studies that says that people speaks more than 100,000 words, and the majority of them taking into account the concept that we're living, because we have to understand that in this moment we have the TV, we have the cell phone, we have the computer. We're able to analyze that it comes in a faster way. So it means that the digital information is actually affecting our cognitive process, you know? So we have to understand why we're going to do it. Um, okay, so when we are reading the text and when we put the different tasks to our students, we can understand that we have something that is called the verbal text that actually covers, and or actually it works for telling us a message, you know. So in this moment we're talking about a different kind of text, the one that we read, the one that we talk, and also the one that we are able to see in the different multimedia resources. So when we are reading the text, we're able to analyze that.
In the task one, that is words and pictures, we can see, as Christian said before, that this task allows us to reflect on how visuals might support learning in different ways from words. Task one, the activity is going to be by couples, and one of the students has to describe his or her room, and the other one has to draw 4 or 5 elements to illustrate the room. The idea with this task is to convey the feeling and the atmosphere of the room, as well as its physical layout. We can take 5 minutes more or less, and at the end of the exercise we are going to compare both descriptions. In this occasion, as you can see my room behind me, we are going to do the activity on the contrary. So I'll show you a drawing of my room, and you are going to describe by words how my room is organized. In the comparisons of both descriptions, we are going to see how do they differ from each other, and what can image do that words can't in communicating a message, and vice versa, what can words do that image cannot in communicating a message. So a question for you is, if you have to choose either the written text or pictures to give a more complete description of the room, which would we choose? The written text or pictures? And also, why might drawing be an useful tool for language learners? You may have mentioned that visuals allow you to see the spatial relationships more clearly between persons, furniture, room dimensions, and so forth. Also, the visuals have shown facial expressions and clothes more clearly, and giving some indication of the country of what the room was in. Also, we can say that the person drawing can take less time than the person who is writing. On the other hand, atmosphere and feeling were probably more accurately conveyed by the writer, unless the person who is drawing is extremely skillful. and the drawers may enjoy this activity more than the writers. The explanation of the drawing will have probably prompted a lot of communicative language use, so that language learning could be happening incidentally as a product of focusing on the visual image. Images and videos meet learners' expectations, so we can say that now we live in a highly visual culture where the visuals are a major vehicle for conveying meaning. For example, it could be argued that images are an essential component for online writing. Images and video give information that can only be provided visually. Talking about food vocabulary, showing images. We can say bread, cake, cheese, chicken, eggs, coffee, chocolate, and chips. Images and videos allow learners to see context and body language, facial expressions, and artifacts. This provides learners the opportunity to see and to learn about a different culture and to hook in a global culture. For example, we are going to see a video.
Looks like our new friend slept in this morning. Hello, Pig. Are you hungry? Yeah, because I owe you a knuckle sandwich. Soldiers! You will assemble swiftly and silently every morning. Anyone who acts otherwise will answer to me. Tough guy. Yo. Thank you for volunteering. Retrieve the arrow.
In this case, we are showing to the learners a video with another culture is immersed. In this case, on the movie of Mulan is the Asian culture, so we can provide students a connection with the other cultures. Another support is that images and videos bring the real world into the classroom. So when a learner decides to create visual products, such as photo diaries and videos, and post it onto blogs and video sharing sites, they can be viewed and receive comments from people beyond the current classroom context who provide genuine audience to communicate with. An example of bringing the real context into the classroom with some Columbus celebrations. They can see the pictures and maybe we don't know if some of the students have experienced some of these celebrations, or maybe they will. Also, images and videos provide a quick and economical means for conveying a message. As the advert says, a picture is a word of 1,000 words. So in this case, we are going to see this picture and you are going to imagine some words that is behind of the picture. This image is related to the last example, so if you cannot guess some words with this image, you are going to see this video. So if the last picture was difficult, what gets on your mind when you see this video? Another support is that visual materials have an emotional impact. As Carlos says, if you really want to move people, don't use words, use images. Images can be analyzed and explained rationally, but there are also ways of tapping into the unconscious mind and the emotions. And also, a number of colleagues, teachers report using visual humor to lighten the mood in the classroom. So in this case, we are going to see this video talking about the contamination and the role of the human being in the world. The idea with this video is to promote ambiental awareness. Well, I hope you get the message of the video. The last video, we can also see the next support of the visuals. That is, visual materials can support language learning by creating a void which needs to be filled by language. So the idea is like to promote a debate or communication between the students to talk about the video and the images that they have seen. The last one is that images and video can create redundancy if the same message is repeated in two modes, visual and verbal. So we have this example. However, in everyday life, we are most used to process messages by words and images. The text states an example where in a television sports report we hear the details of the game while we are watching the football players playing. We seem to have no problem with processing the different message in our mother tongue, but with this case it would be more difficult processing the message in the second language. In the following part of this presentation, we are going to suggest material integrating computer technology as a resource for visuals. So we are going to include image banks, cartoon strip tools, animations, and video sharing sites. So the idea is teachers and students can use these materials to create and share their own multimodal text and promote learning by making, building, and articulating this material. So Kevin is going to explain the second task, and I hope you have enjoyed this video, and please answer the question that I said before that I'm going to write on the description of the video. See you.
Okay, for the task number 2, that is using technology as a resource for visuals, the idea of the task was proposed by Carl Wild, that is a colleague of us, is also a teacher. The idea of Carl was that their students learn a new vocabulary using something called video dictionary. The idea of this video dictionary was that students must choose one word, complicated word, not as a common word. For example, one of the groups choose the word apologize. There is a very complicated word to explain. The idea was they must to record the video, and in this video, they need to make the people understand, um, for example, the meaning of the word, uh, how is the word is spelled correctly, how can we use the word in daily life or daily routine, uh, how was the grammatical form of the word. The idea was also that they illustrate a little scene where the word was used. For example, in the scene, the text says that okay, for the task 3, the task is also guiding us in the way to show how images can help texts to being meaningful. Uh, at the first part of the reading, the text give us 3 questions. The first one is, when you enter in a website, what is the first thing that you read? Second, where is the biggest visual in the web page? And also, who are in there long pieces of information? Uh, these 3 types of question let us know that most of the answers are in the headlines. I mean, what is the first thing that you see when you enter in a website? The first thing that you see is the headlines to know what is the text about or what is the web page about. The biggest visuals are also there. And in a recently research done by Jacob Nielsen, shows that typically most of the people that enter in a website uh, catch their attention in isolated words, followed by images. The idea of images is trying to catch the attention of the persons. And
Hi everyone. Through this video I'm going to talk about funding and being critical about online video. When it comes to search for online video as a way for funding material that could be, let's say, useful for our classes, probably the first website that comes to our mind is YouTube. And of course it has a lot of material, but our role is to find out what material is accurate. So that we must consider some points in order to select a video of good quality. For example, if we type learn English, we will find a lot of results. So let's see this video.
Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Well, the first thing we need to do is to find out who made it. And in this case, it seems to belong to an online program for learning English, maybe as a professional way. So that if we go to the page, we are expected to find a section where probably we will subscribe and pay for online tuition. A section like this one. But well, let's continue watching the video.
Welcome to English Class 101 Way. First, let's review. If someone says, "How are you?" you can say, "I'm fine." I'm fine. Here are some other ways to answer. Pretty good. This means about the same thing as I'm fine. Pretty good. We also have not bad. You can use.
Well, what do you think? Could we use it in our classroom? Well, maybe it has a good explanation and grammar, but for teaching children we could think that it is not so accurate since it has not been made for them. So even when it has this number of viewers, it it wouldn't work for us. But well, finally, let's take a look of the comments, because if they are good, probably we can use this video for other audience. So at random, let's see some of them. It says, for example, thank you for taking the time to make this. Great, it is very useful for me, thank you. One more. She is teaching English in English. Well, yeah, as you see, some of them are positive, as they say it has been useful for most of people. So, but well, there are others that tend to be blunt, yeah, the kind of honest people. But well, the drawback with this video is that it is not for kids. So well, now I'm going to show you some channels that I have found interesting. Well, the first one is this one from the Schoolhouse Rock. These videos come from an American TV program of animated musical and educational short films. The topics include grammar, science, economics, history, mathematics, and civics. Well, these videos are authentic material. So how? Because they have been made for native kids of the United States, but what is really useful for us is that they explain many topics through catchy songs, as for example this one that is adjectives.
Places and every last thing. So we unpacked our adjectives.
Well, we can also see that they have descriptive pictures that could be useful also.
Reached in and found the word worst.
Well, another channel is no, this one, for example. It is Kiss Crafts by three sisters, and in this channel we can find handcrafts, so it can support learning based on how to do. These ideas will be interesting for kids, as for example this video, since it is performed by children.
Sisters. Today we are showing you guys how to make this beautiful bird wall art using newspaper and party streamers. And the technique we are using is inspired by Red Tie Art when she made these beautiful...
Well, another channel is Watch Mojo. This channel is so famous because it is producing content about current topics, let's say top 10 videos of bands, singers and movies, which will be interesting for children. As for example, this
Don't blame the
video.
children, blame the people who wrote these characters. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 annoying kid characters in movies. Before
Well, another video I want to share is this one. Is from the channel Nickelodeon, and in this channel we can find TV programs and series that maybe children like, and in fact we can find videos that go beyond the series and extend the content, as for example videos about characters of art.
Bring it around town.
I won't be needing these. Buzz, buzz, buzz.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
And well, the last channel that I want to share with you is this one, is Storybook. And in this channel we can find real short stories animated about children and teenagers, the kind of entertaining experiences. For example, this video, it is named I Survived the War but We Lost My Sister. It's really moving,
all time trying to avoid the war. And then my dad was like, okay, we're low in food. We can't live like this. We're gonna die in here if we don't get any more. My dad and my sister go out and they go and get food. It was about 4 days since they'd went out to get.
Well, I consider you can find them, and as soon as you do it, you're going to see that they are very useful for working on the critical thinking in our classes. Well, finally, let's move to the next topic. It is about finding and evaluating images. Well, I'm positive about the search engine that most of us has used for finding images is Google. But what if we try searching these images for our classes in other websites, as for example this one that is search the Creative Commons, and well, let's see what kind of images we can find about hat. In the case we want to teach vocabulary of clothing, so in Google we are going to find these pictures, and as we can see in this case of Google, there are different pictures, but they don't have a meaning different from the denotative meaning. Yep. And well, by looking for the word hat in the other website, we can see how it takes a connotative meaning of the word hat, as it shows images of woolen hats, and we can see it abstract ideas as warmth. Well, the main point here is how this website can find how we can find images which provide a sensory and emotional meaning that convey with the feelings and values of the person who create the image. But well, finally, we are advised to be careful, because well, it has to do with the fact that many people use a search engine as Google to find pictures without realizing that the material provided for it is subject to copyright, and the owner may not have given permission for other people to use it. So one solution to the problem of copyright is the Creative Commons license of this website that show you. They allow the creator's work to be used, but not for commercial purpose, but it is better for looking for these pictures. And well, that's it. Thank you for watching.
This video contains the tasks number 6 and 7. The task number 6 is making a digital guidebook. This activity is based on the use of images in the project work. The main objective of this activity is that the learners create something using their language and publish that creation to an audience. The process to make a digital guidebook has 4 steps. The first step is make a visitor guide. If you want, you can work with a partner or with a friend. Then you are going to make a simple visitor guide to the place where you live or you work. For example, I choose Bogota. It's important that you use adjectives to describe the place. In this case would be old, big, colorful, beautiful, among others. Also, we can use past tenses to describe historical events. For example, the city was founded by the Muisca people long before the arrival of the Spanish, who established their own city there. The second step is open a presentation. In this step, you can use a PowerPoint presentation or an online slideshow creator such as Prezi or Slideshare. If you want, you can write the captions on a paper or in a Word document and pasting them into the presentation, such as famous places, historical events, or modern times. The third step is describe the place as it is now. In this part of the guidebook, you should be entitled Modern Times. Also, you should search for pictures that show buildings, parks, roads, and recent features of the area. Then you can paste them into your slideshow. Finally, you will write a caption for each picture saying why the feature is important or interesting. Finally, the fourth and last step in this task is describe the place as it once was. It means history. Write a sequence of simple captions about the historical significance of historical places in your area. Search for images that try to fit in your captions. To apply this task, it's important bear in mind some aspects. In activities like this, learners will tend to start by searching for images unless they are directed otherwise. Why? Because the nature of internet related to the variety of contents causes that learners waste time or get distracted. To change the situation, we can begin with writing and find images that related to the text to obtain a more productive and language-focused approach. It's important to say that picture-based stories and activities allows that learners can use photographs that they have taken. To do this, learners will need to think about the types of photographs that they wanted to gather. Also, learners can edit the photographs using image editing programs such as Photoshop or online tools as Picasa. In this point, there is a risk that learners will become engrossed in the taking and editing photographs. But no matter how motivating is the situation, the teacher needs to refocus them on the language learners' elements of the activity. The seventh task is comic strip story and is based on static images. This activity could use images found on the internet or it could be based on images made by the learners. Learners could use photographs of people, places, or objects. The images do not necessarily tell the story. They can represent the key point in the story or crucial events in the development of it. In my case, I choose a Japanese version of Red Riding Hood's story. As we can see, the comic is complete, but if we take the most important parts of it, the student can't understand the sense of the story. Another option is the use of toys such as Playmobil, which photograph to depict the story. To develop this task, you need to choose a traditional story, maybe one from your own country which will not be familiar to other members of the class. Then, you will retell the story in the form of a comic strip, using narrative captions and speech bubbles. If you want, you can use electronic tools such as PowerPoint to develop your story. This activity is useful to improve the use of language in our students for many reasons. According to Papert and Harrell, learning is most effective when it comes about truth making. Their point of view is that the learners not only need to do. It's important that they are active in their learning, but they also need to articulate their knowledge and make visible to others. They call this philosophy constructionism. It's important to say that learners need to think about the language used in the stories and narrative in order to plan draft the text for the comic strip. This task allows them to externalize their linguistic knowledge and does it in a way that is entertaining and motivating. These authors say that it is this process of articulation and making that leads to deep learning. Therefore, whilst working the comic strip story will help learners to understand and remember the language. Why? Because the learner who made the story will have learned much more deeply than those who simply watch the completed product. Now we are gonna present some classroom activities that will help you making your own material. And they also represent the transition between still and moving images. The first activity is called animated dialogue. And for this, we need to start by a planning stage based on a storyboard to plan what will happen at every stage of the animation and what language will be used. For this, we can use online animators that include ready-made characters that we can use, or we may allow our students to make or draw their own images.
Por el ya bastante borracho
Edgar
Allan
Poe.
¡Nunca más!
Ese es mi nombre, el más grande escritor de los Estados Unidos, el mayor exponente del género de crimen y de horror en el mundo.
Oye, al principio me emocioné, pero creo que ya tuve suficiente de Poe borracho hostigador.
Sí, esto está peor que cuando terminamos en medio del Marqués de Sade, Henry Miller y Hunter S. Thompson.
De acuerdo, tenemos que escapar de aquí. Yo digo que salgamos uno por uno con la excusa de que vamos al baño.
¡Hey! ¿A dónde creen que van?
Vamos al baño.
¡Nada! Vamos a pedir otra ronda y les contaré la historia de mi vida desde el principio.
¡Dilo tuyo!
¡Nunca más! Pero en 1847, después de una larga agonía, finalmente el viento salió de una nube, helando y matando a mi amada Virginia, quien sucumbió a la tuberculosis. Y a partir de entonces no fui el mismo. Fue una enorme pérdida en mi vida. Hasta los periódicos de la época lo dijeron.
¡Extra, extra! ¡Muere la esposa de Poe! Es muy probable que él les haga muy próximamente.
Oye, es bastante grosero decirle a alguien que se va a morir.
Pues sí, pero no deja de ser cierto. Se ve del carajo, señor Poe.
Y era cierto. A partir de entonces, mi conducta fue bastante errática. Cortejaba a varias mujeres. A veces incluso les escribía las mismas cartas y solo les cambiaba el nombre. Una de ellas fue la poetisa Sarah Helen Whitman.
Hola, ángel de mis pesadillas, la sombra al fondo de la morgue, la víctima inocente de la oscuridad en el valle. Podríamos vivir como Jack y Sally si quisiéramos.
Pero su mamá no aceptó, porque dijo que era un borracho inmundo y que andaba tras su fortuna, lo cual era
Here
mentira.
they suggest an activity to practice requests. So the first step is that your students have to work with a partner. Later, they must draft a dialogue between two people. The first one makes increasingly strange or difficult requests, and the second one consistently agrees or disagrees. The last step is using an online animation creator to provide animation for your dialogue. We can also make these dialogues without technology, or we can use different contexts such as games and virtual environments. For example, Second Life, Gray, and The Sims. As we already know, writing dialogues is a common activity in the classroom. So what value is added by the animation creator tools? The first one is that making animations motivates students to write using the target language. The second one is that it helps learners who are afraid about speaking. Animation tools allow the emotional focus to be taken away from writing. Also, it gives them the possibility to record a soundtrack and add it or use it instead of the written texts. And the last advantage is that animation can be published online, so they can receive feedback and they can also share their activities with people from different parts of the world. The second activity is house raising videos using moving images. This activity is an example of learning through making. Here, learners shoot their own videos and share them on the internet. The activity aims to demonstrate what is involved on planning, preparing and creating a video. Here you will also need a storyboard to plan before shooting, so everyone knows where they should be and how to set up the different scenes. The activity proposed here has a language focus on continuous verb forms, but you can also work with temporal linkers and present perfect. First, students need to work in groups of 4. 2 will be the actors, 1 will operate the camera, and the last one will be the commentator. Here you can record the commentary at the same time as the video, or you can record a soundtrack and add it later. Next, you need to think about some household chores that contain a range of smaller tasks, for example, cooking a meal or cleaning a room. The 2 actors must imagine that they are taking part in a race against each other, and the commentator will describe in the manner of a sports commentator what the actors are doing. Finally, you can show the videos in the classroom and let students to vote for the best performance. Before showing the videos, you could ask them to predict who will win the competition. And after the videos, you can compare the different ways of approaching to the task. As an option, you can upload the videos on YouTube. But in order to protect children, you can ask them to use puppets or create masks for the videos. This is an ideal activity to develop technological skills, since students will be cutting videos, mixing them and putting them together. If you want a more professional product, you can show them some programs like Movie Maker or iMovie for them to edit the videos.
Okay, thank you very much to be watching this video. I think that the topic that we meant to explain was quite clear from here. So further than telling you again all about approaches and all about activities or material or tasks that even you can do, I think as a reflection that it is important for you to know that is totally necessary nowadays to use images in our context, as children now are trying to understand and trying to learn easily from the images that we can have and what we can show them from it. When you're in your classroom and when you are trying to explain about a ball, when you write the word ball in the board, it's not the same as you bring the ball, the real ball, and teach them about it. Students are just going to see 4 letters in the board, and they are going to misinterpret or are going to be hard to them to realize about what is the meaning of that word when you are bringing them the real images about it. Also, we can see that from the images, and there is such a big artistic and creative strength that you can explore from your students. As we are teachers, we need to know that students are not just like a book that you put information in, but they are like a black bulb. They need different sources to realize and to understand by themselves what they are learning. And when they try to to relate some things about the context and what they are learning in English, it's going to be easy for everybody as they learn easy from this way. In third way, we can interpret that from the reading. There is a lot of different factors that can insight into the visual learning, as we can have drawings, we can have storytelling, and we can have just simple draws that are going to make students realize of the importance of reading something, but be aware of what are they trying to do. So as we are trying to do and we are trying to explain about it, it surely will become a good tool for us, and not just to make them slaves about the reading skills, but to perform the reading, because also an image can be reading as well. Listening, how can you express something about this image, and the creativity and artistic gifts as well. I think that is all from this topic, but I suggest to you that you should find some good authors about multimodality and visual learning that are allocated in the end of this lecture and this chapter. I hope you have the chance to read it, because it has such good activities that you can perform in your daily classes, but as well it can be used and you can adapt a lot from the activities here and the tasks to your students, and as well to design your own material. It will become such a good tool to make easier your classes. So thank you very much again to see all this series of videos, and this was learning visuals and multimodality chances. My name is Santiago Martinez. Thank you very much, and I see you later.